This is a recipe that I developed because our TBMs, our Territory Business Managers, wanted something that they could take into hospitals for people like yourselves to try, and for the dietitians, of course, using the products. The products that I'm going to be using in this particular recipe are some of our biscuits, the Low Protien chocolate chip cookies. I've got a little monitor down here, by the way, if you wonder why I keep looking back here. Just make sure I can show you exactly what I want you to see. So it's the Low Protien cookies and the Toffee Duo bar. Now, we do a very good range of biscuits. Apart from the cookie range, there's also the wafers in different flavors. These are a nice crisp wafer with vanilla, orange, or lemon flavor. There are lemon biscuits, which are quite a little bit like a shortbread type biscuits. And the cookies, of course, are intended to be a little bit sort of the American type texture, quite a crisp cookie type texture. So I'm using the full packet, and of course you get 3 sachets of 3 biscuits in this particular recipe. I'm using 4 of the Toffee Duo bars, of which there are 3 different flavors. There's toffee, natural, and strawberry. I'm also using 1 of the natural Duo bars, which I've chopped up into small pieces. When I say small pieces, I don't mean very tiny pieces. I mean pieces that you can actually see and you will be able to taste. And as well as that, I've chopped up quite finely 3 ounces of ready-to-eat apricots. These are the apricots that don't need soaking. They're soft and quite nice and tender, and they have a lovely tangy flavor. So the apricots are going into the bowl. The natural Duo bar pieces are going into the bowl, and I'm just going to make a little bit of noise and chop up some of the remainder of the... my mallet anywhere around, Keith? What have I done with it? No? Thank you. When you're chopping these up, what I tend to do is I put them face side down because they're slightly rounded. And I also leave them in the pack because one of the problems when you're doing anything like this is that they have a tendency to break the polythene bag that you put them in. So if you put them in the pack and bash them in the pack, A, it helps to protect the bag and you don't lose half of the biscuits. The biscuits are really versatile because as well as using them for things like this, you can use them with crumbles, sweet crumble toppings, mix them in, just in the same way that you can with the breakfast cereals that I omitted from the muffin recipes. Chop these up until they're quite fine, by which time the bag will have burst on the inside of your polythene bag and you'll be able to get them out quite nicely. If they're a little on the big side, make sure you break them up. But don't crush them too fine, because the whole idea is it's a rocky slice, so it needs to be chunky but not too chunky. So that's the full packet of biscuits that's going into the bowl. I've had this little pan on the cooker since I came down here this morning, and it's got 4 Toffee Duo bars in that have melted. But I didn't want them really hot, because if they're so hot, they will melt the other Duo bar that is already in the mix. I want that to stay fairly whole because it stays in nice sort of chunks. So I'm now going to transfer what's been in this pan for so long into the bowl. Always melt Duo bar slowly. Don't melt it too fast because it has quite a low melting point. And do be careful if you're using it in hot weather because it has a tendency to go liquid quite quickly. Because it's a high energy bar which is absolutely perfect for all sorts of things. In this case, as I say, I'm using it to bind these ingredients together to make another biscuit. But also you can use it for topping cakes. What I like to do is to grate it, and then if I'm doing some muffins in the oven, I'll just sprinkle the grated Duo bar on top of the muffins when they come out of the oven whilst they're still hot. So you don't have to melt it. You're just using the straightforward grated Duo bar and it melts actually on the top of the muffins. And that's quite a nice, easy way of using it. So that's our biscuit, virtually ready. All we're going to do now is just transfer it into a tin, which I've put a non-stick liner on the base. Now I tend to use non-stick paper simply because your product or whatever recipe you're making, it comes off easily. So if you're doing cakes, you find if you use a greaseproof paper, then you've got to start sort of dragging it off the base immediately after it's cooked, otherwise it sticks and you have problems getting off. So always use non-stick paper when you're doing any cooking. It's bought in the same place and usually in the same shelves with the greaseproof paper. It's quite readily available. You shouldn't have any problems whatsoever in getting it. There's 2 big platefuls of Rocky Slice outside waiting for you to have with or after lunch. There's enough for everybody because I've done 5 of these trays and 1 tray is sufficient for 16 slices, so there's absolutely plenty for non-PKUs to eat, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Because certainly when I make it, I usually have to make 1 for me and however many I need to do for whatever presentation I'm doing. Because I find it's rather nice. I think, Fiona, you tried it for the first time today, didn't you? And it's a bit yummy. It is a bit yummy. So that's our Rocky Slice. That will now go into, or should go into a fridge. Obviously it won't here, but it should go into a fridge. Until it's set, just make sure there are no bits sticking up at the top because you need to have the whole thing blended and mixed together and stuck together, so to speak, with the duo bar. When that's set, if you simply turn it out onto a chopping board and then cut it down the centre and then cut 8 slices out of each one, and that's a really nice quick, and I shall probably enjoy this tomorrow when we get home.